Hi. Okay, hi. So I'm Mrs. Dowling. We're going to do monoprinting today, and with the monoprinting, we're going to be creating 2 prints onto paper. You can just do one if you want, where you're either using a stencil or the underglazed squeeze bottles to create a print. So the first thing you'd need to do is to get a piece of paper, which is just newsprint. If there isn't any newsprint in the tray, it's on the shelf over there. And then you'll want to write your name on the back, because once you start printing on it, it's hard to write on. So you just grab a marker or Sharpie. Can you grab me one behind you, Vanessa? And put your name on it so that you have it when you start. Or your initials are fine too. That's fine. Thank you. And then you guys are going to decide if you want to do a stencil or the slip trail bottle or both. So I'm going to start with stencil. So for the stencil, you literally can pick out any stencil you want. I'm going to use the honeycomb. And you just put it directly on your paper. And then you'll want a paper towel and a brush. And you want to clean all that water off the brush and make sure it's clean. You can take the that apart, right? And then the underglaze, make sure that you have the lid on and you shake it with the lid on. And it should be that melted ice cream consistency. But if it's not, you just have to do a few more coats. And so for this one, you would literally just brush on the top, do a couple coats. Now what happens if I pull it off right now? The stencil, what would happen? Anybody? Come on, you know. What would happen if I pull the stencil up?
The designer would show.
It would smear, right? It would smear, right? So, if you do this, you can either put little weights by it and put it by the fan, something heavy on there, or just leave the stencil on. I did this 1/3 hour. And then once it's done, you would peel the stencil carefully off to reveal your design. So it doesn't always turn out perfect, like that one would just print black because it was too watery. Do you see how I pick my range colors? But this one printed pretty well. So I did one earlier of that stencil, and this is how it turned out. So we don't do the transfer method until the stencil's dry. Basically, you're making your own rice paper transfer method. Okay? So that is one way. Just remember not to take the stencil off until it's dry. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And it might not be perfect, and that's okay. All right? Don't make me talk to you about your cell phones when I'm doing a video for the whole class. Okay, the next method, oh, by the way, when you're done, you want to wash your stencils, and then we push pin them to the wall. There's push pins there to dry, and then I'll put them away for you. That's the best way to get them dry and not lost. The other method is what most of my kids did in my other class, is they decided to draw directly onto the paper. Remember, it will print backwards. So you put your name on there again, and then I did get some new slip trail bottles. You're welcome to try those. I don't know how many extras empties I have, but if you need to fill one of these, there is a funnel, and you just use underglaze. So that's white underglaze. Please make sure you put the lid on. If you don't know how to put this on with the needle, ask me, because when they get clogged, that's not fun. So you might want to test it on a side paper or a paper towel, and then you can just draw either designs directly on it, or you can see what I did here, is I painted underglaze on first. So with the underglaze, you would paint that on first, and then you would pick like a contrasting color. Oh, mountain range colors. And then you would paint the design on top, and then it would transfer the blue and the black. So I could do dots, or I could do designs. And then when they dry, you'll transfer them onto your piece. So these 2 examples up here are from, I'll fix that in a sec because I can't get it and I don't want to leave it out. These 2 examples are for students that were in my 3rd hour. This one's still wet. This one's good. You don't have to do them this detailed, but they look pretty cool. Then you're going to put them in the greenware room to dry. And next week we're going to transfer them. But I'm going to show you how to transfer them today so you can see the idea behind it. So I will have slabs ready for you next week, ready to go. We already had some right here. And you'll want to first take your slab of clay and smooth out any of those rough areas. And then you need a cup of water, clean water. Okay? And then, can you see? You guys, can you see? This one I did MRHS backwards. Remember, if you do words, you got to do letters and words backwards. These are just hearts, and then this one is this. So I'm just going to use a little piece of it to show you. If you draw really thin, it doesn't transfer well. Okay? So then you just put this face down, And just like the rice paper transfer, squeeze out the excess water. If it's too runny, you'll smear all of your underglaze. And then you put that pressure on there. And then let it sit a minute. And also take the blue rubber ribs, they're over there by the tools, and scrape it a little bit. It's okay if you tear the newsprint because that'll just burn out in the kiln. And let it sit a minute before you peel it off. And when you do peel it off, just check the corner first. So cute. Okay, and then here's this one. So it leaves a kind of interesting texture or design for the piece that is different than just a direct painting onto it. So all of you need to make at least one today with the newsprint, put your name on it, and get some slip trouble bottles or underglaze and start working. Thank you. All right, ready?